Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast, actually the live cast, if you're here with us the night of. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it. Look at this. We have audio. Everything's working. Knock on wood. Hopefully we'll get through the show without any problems. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed to the channel. If you've not done so, please do so. If you, when done watching this, please give it the thumbs up on YouTube or on Getter. I don't know if you can even do it on Getter, but on YouTube, you can click that little thumbs up button. That would be great. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell your friends. It's a lot of fun. And you can also get the audio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker, probably sometime tomorrow. Just a programming note, coming up tomorrow, I will be in for Rich Zeoli on PHT out of Philadelphia. And then on Thursday from 10 to noon Eastern time, I will be on WHIO out of Des Moines, Iowa, in for Emery Songer, and then back 3 to 7 in for Rich Zeoli on PHT in Philadelphia. And then on Friday, I'm back on WHIO out of Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. Gotta remember, I keep wanting to say Ohio, but it's Iowa. From 10 to noon, again, Eastern time. That's an iHeart station, so you should be able to get that just on iHeart. Just look on the app for WHIO. I think, yeah, WHO. Oh, I gave you the wrong one. WHO. I should probably check that out. Hold on. Let me just make sure. Hang on one second. Our lovely guest is waiting. I think it's WHO. Hold on. I should make sure. Well, I'll figure that out and I'll call you. Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa. I got that part. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. WHO. Yes, WHO. Take the I out of there. That's why I keep getting confused. WHO. That's terrible. Oh my God, they're never going to have me back. I don't even know the name of this. I'm going to get out of this gracefully and introduce and bring Christine Flowers in. Hi, honey. How are you?
Hi, baby. Well, first of all, your fans and viewers did not see me backstage when I heard that you were going to be in for Rich Zeoli in Philadelphia. I was like, yay. And then I was ready to follow you on WHIO, but now you're going to be, where are you going to be? On WHO in Des Moines,
WHO
Iowa.
in Des Moines, Iowa. Yes, WHO. I can't believe I put an I in there. I don't know why I kept doing that, but I did. But anyway, it's WHO. And it's interesting because I have worked on that station before, once or twice, like not a lot. And they asked me to come in. I was like, oh, sure, 10 to noon. That's a sweet time. I don't have to get up super early. It's great.
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh, and then I was like, PHT Philadelphia. Well, there's enough time between the shows to pull that off on Thursday. So I'm going to do that
and
too.
Is it on? Can we access it on the web? The
yeah,
streaming?
if you could look for, if you're on iHeart, I know iHeart carries it, and I'm sure if you look for WHO AM, you can listen to it online, I'm sure.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting. I'm going to be Emery Songer, who also has a show in Nevada. He has a show somewhere else. So he does one show in the morning in Iowa, and then he does a show another time of the day. Maybe it's Nebraska in the afternoon. So
I have a question for you, because you are so versatile and you have been in DC and Baltimore and obviously Philly and in the Midwest and on the West Coast. Do you notice a difference in the audiences, and do you tailor the topics that you cover differently depending on the audience?
Well, sure. I mean, because I'll be filling if it's a local show, yes. If it's a national show, if I'm doing Sirius, if I'm doing Kilmeade, Rob Carson, one of those, if I'm doing a national show, then I do national stories, unless there's a really compelling local story somewhere that you could like extrapolate or to the rest of the listening audience, so they don't say, oh, that's happening in Nebraska. Why do I care about that? And off they go.
Yeah.
For instance, tomorrow, since I'll be in for Rich on PHT, we'll have some Philadelphia stories, obviously, that we would put in that normally I would not put in on a national show.
That's like how many people have been murdered, in the past 4 hours?
I try to keep it positive, Chris.
You think I'm joking and being sarcastic, don't you?
Oh boy, now I gotta check the news.
And that won't happen in Des Moines, Iowa. In Des Moines, Iowa, I mean, that's the heart of the country. Those are good people there,
It's Chuck Grassley's area, which I love Chuck Grassley. I've lost touch with him. When I was in DC, I was in touch with him, and he was kind enough to invite me and Gordon Chang and Joe and Victoria, Victoria Tenzing and Joe DeGeneva to breakfast at the congressional dining room, Senate dining room. And well, I've told this story. I have to tell you, it wasn't all it's cracked up to be. It's not what you would think.
I don't care. You went to the Senate, the dining hall. That right then and there, yeah. you had me at Senate dining hall.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but I got to tell you, it kind of looked like a room at the Holiday Inn that they just put the little bifold doors across. It was not. It's not what you expect it to be. Now I don't know if dinner is elsewhere, but it was the Senate dining room. But maybe it's they like block off the impressive part just for dinner, and we were there for breakfast. So I don't know. But while we were there, so Gordon Chang lives in New Jersey too. So while we're there, Gold Bar Bob walks in. While we were there.
Menendez, right?
Menendez. And I had my back to him. And unfortunately, and I love Chuck Grassley, but he wears a hearing. He's like very, very hard of hearing in his right ear. And that's the side I was on. So I was like, So that was, nice man, super nice guy. And he picked up the tab, which I thought was very nice. So Gordon Chang looks at me, he goes, our senator just walked in. And I look and I'm like, oh, and he's much shorter than I would expect, that I thought he was, Menendez. And so I looked at him, I go, should we get up and say hello? Because he was at the table right behind me, like right there. And he's waiting for people and he's standing there waiting for his guest to come in. And there were not a lot of people in there. It was very, very sparse when we were there. And so there he is. And I said, should we get up and go over and talk to him? And Gordon Chang looks at me and goes, yes, but you have to be nice. I'm like, Gordon, I can't believe I wouldn't be nice.
How dare he presume that you would not be nice?
I know, shocking. So, so we went up to him and told him, oh yeah, we're your constituents. And he's like, oh yeah, well, what are you doing down here? And I tell him, I go, yeah, but and I forget how he came in, but he said something about, oh, where do you live in New Jersey? I go, well, for now, I told him I live down the shore. He goes, oh, it's a really nice part of the state. I go, yeah, but unfortunately we can't afford it anymore. So like all our friends were selling and getting out.
Well, I mean, and
Gordon just looks at me like Gordon shot me daggers, and it was great.
It's like, yeah, well, I mean, you represent you're a Jersey girl, and he's from North Jersey, right? He's from like Union County.
Oh yeah, he's up from Perth Amboy. Perth Amboy.
Oh, okay. Perth Amboy. Yeah. And and you're a Central Jersey girl, right? Like, yes, like the 908 area code.
Right. Originally 201, then 732, then 908. We changed, never moved, but our area code changed 3 times.
That's fascinating because I do know all of the area codes in New Jersey. I pride myself on that. When I was growing up, all there was 201 and 609.
609, yeah.
And then, 609 was Jersey south of Trenton. And then there was 856, which is Camden County and the area that's close to Philadelphia. And then there's 973, which is the Newark area. When I go up to Newark Immigration Court, it's always 973.
Right.
732 is what I think of your area, a little bit north of 908. And then there's another one somewhere. So
they literally,
I pride myself on Jersey area codes.
So my husband and I grew up in the same town, but we switched to 908 and he stayed 732. No, he became 908 and we stayed 732. And I forget, one of us. Yeah, we switched to 908. I had to go through my phone number as a child, 908. Yeah, so we went to 908 and they stayed 732. And we were a couple miles apart, but it was the same town. So
yeah. Well, now I consider myself. Philadelphia's area code was always 215. It was always 215.
Right.
And, my cell phone is still 215. All of my old phone numbers were 215. And now, because so many people moved in, the first thing they started giving 610 to the suburbs and to the Lehigh Valley. And then it was this 484 thing and then 267. And I'm looking at them and I feel this sense of, I don't know. I'm like snobby because I have 215. I'm one of the OGs, It's like, and I'm not changing this number because you can't get 215 anymore.
Well, it's like New York. Don't you remember we're off on such a tangent. Don't you remember on Sex and the City when one of them had to get a new phone and she was no longer 201?
Yes.
201. She was not a 201 anymore.
Carrie
and it was like, no, 212. 212. That was it. 212 was New York. 201 was New Jersey. She was not 212 anymore. And she's like, why do I have to be a 646? What's happened? And she like the whole episode was about her trying to get a 212 phone number to be a true New Yorker.
212 is, I mean, Carolina Herrera, I love the perfume 212. I mean, that is New York. Just as 215, it doesn't have the same cachet, but it is the same. You know, it's kind of like it says you have this mark on you that you were there at the beginning, and everyone else is carpet, you know.
Yep. All right, let's see who's here. Star Driver's here. Bill, Sal, Rebecca, Yitzhak says hello, comrades. They're all saying hello to each other. Now Tax is here. He says tariff versus income taxes. Let's eliminate income taxes. Hello, fellow citizens. And of course, the number one fill-in host, Mary Walter, for David Webb, Andrew Wilkow, and many others. Yay! He's great. I have to tell you, Steve always posts my schedule for me on X. He's fantastic. Scott's here. Star Driver. The Queen has arrived. Suze is here from big PHT fan. Suze loves Jeffy. She's there in the mornings all the time. So she knows you, Christine. Star Driver says it's WHO radio. Yes, it is. Please don't tell them I put the I in there by accident. Sal says, listening to your live cast keeps me out of trouble. Rebecca says, Sal, I'm always in trouble. Star, yep, I listen to WHO a lot growing up in Iowa. Yitzhak says, who's on first? WHO. Star, it's the Queen and Princess Caroline. Christine. It's the Queen and Princess Christine. I love that.
That's Grace Kelly's daughter. I'll take Caroline, Princess Caroline.
There you go. Okay, Iowa, how do the folks respond to the threat of jihad, Iran with nukes? I'm not quite sure what that has to do with Iowa or our conversation, but thank you, Yitzhak. Gregory, Des Moines doesn't sound like a hotbed of controversy. You never know. Those are the sleepy places you got to watch out for. So you never know.
I mean, Ted Kaczynski was hiding out in somewhere in the Midwest, and then he went to Washington State. And I mean, you don't know. Oklahoma City. We just commemorated the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. Who would have thought that the Murrah building in Oklahoma City would have been, you know, the first true domestic tragedy, domestic terrorism. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that part of the country.
Exactly. Yeah. Yitzhak in Brooklyn, my dad was Ulster 24567. It was also 212 back then. That was they did the same thing in Philly. They did it all over, you know, the East Coast where you first had the phones in the cities. It was, you know, Greenwich 4356 or whatever.
Right. And just to sort of tie this into Iowa, the very first phone number that I remember that we had when I lived up in North Philly, Logan, I was a little girl. It was DA4 5326. And do you know what the DA stood for? Davenport.
I was just going to say
Iowa. Davenport, Iowa. So, well, I mean, it wasn't Davenport, Iowa was the phone number, but that's what reminded me of it. Davenport 43256.
Yeah, look at that. Star Driver being funny says, what part of New Jersey is the 666 area code in? That's Trenton. Only the capital. It's for the capital only.
Philly. It's Kensington and Philly. They have their own.
Exactly.
That neighborhood has its own area code.
Oh, we lost Christine. That was not me. Porchview is here. Porchview, Farmfellow, West Virginia. Yitzhak, do the folks in Iowa call in and talk about Iran? What's their issues? I don't remember. I bring the issues up. So if we're talking about Iran, then they'll call in. They're a very good audience from what I remember. So it's been a while. Hermit says we used semaphore to communicate. I don't think they gave out a 666 area code. I'm pretty sure they did not. I'm just going to go with that, Yitzhak, and say there is no 666 area code. That's just my hunch. So I do not think that is there. All right. While we wait for Christine to get back, did you see this? Because I want to talk to her about, since she's a lawyer and she's an immigration lawyer, I want to talk to her about immigration and about legal issues. So, but I want to talk about this first. Did you guys see this story? I'm sure you have because you guys are so smart. Wait a minute. What just happened? Everything went, there we go. My screen just went blank. What was that? Okay. Oh, she's back. There she is. Hello. She's returned.
I have no idea what happened. We were talking about Kensington and 666. It's like,
and look what happened.
Sorry, people. Sorry.
No worries. So, a couple of things. Just one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Let's start off at the beginning because I do have some immigration stories and some legal stories that I want to talk to you about, which that's you. Did you see this story that there's a guy who worked for Tim Walz, an employee in his administration in Minnesota, got caught on cameras, on Tesla cameras. His name is Dylan Adams, and he caused $20,000 in damage to Teslas. I think it was 6 different Teslas around town, keying them. The office of the county attorney said it will pursue pre-charge diversion instead of felony charges against him. $20,000.
You know, if that had been Nancy Pelosi's house, if that had been Jasmine Crockett's eyelash wardrobe, if that had been anything else, they would have, brought charges and tried to see if they could bring federal charges. But obviously there's an issue there because it's Tim Walz, it's Minnesota, and I mean, obviously it's outrageous and it's, it's selective prosecution, but are you surprised? I'm not.
No, it's liberal privilege. They always talk about white privilege and male privilege and all this other privilege. It's liberal privilege, and that's what this is. My client is very remorseful for his actions and is beginning the process of making sure that victims are made whole financially.
How's he going to do
and
that?
The reason they're doing this is because the Trump administration wanted it charged as felonies because it's domestic terrorism. Just because of the car you're targeted, because of the car you drive.
It's absolutely domestic terrorism, but they're charging it as, so it's a state crime. They're not charging it. They're not sending it to the feds aren't stepping in. The DOJ is not stepping in, right?
Yeah. Can I just talk about that for a hot second? What's up with Pam Bondi? Am I expecting too much at this point? Or should I mean, I thought within 100 days, somebody was being perp walked. What's going on? What am I missing? What's happening?
I don't know. I'm incredibly disappointed in Pam Bondi, in Kristi Noem. They're lightweights. I'm sorry. Now, I know that we're supposed to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you said it, 100 days. There is more than enough out there to be able to prosecute. There is, and I mean, don't get me started on Kristi Noem. I'm probably on the other side of the issue with respect to Kristi Noem, but she's like her little PR stunts with the hair extensions and the tight sweaters and
she looks good though.
She looks good, but that's not what we want in our DHS secretary. We want someone who is competent, not doing PR stunts with the real guys who are doing the work. But anyway, back to Pam. Listen, after Matt Gaetz exited stage left or stage right or whatever, I was very happy because I thought, Pam Bondi is a seasoned prosecutor, 2 decades worth. I think she did yeoman's work at the second impeachment. I thought she was, incredibly qualified, very articulate, but she really, to me, she's just been a mouthpiece for the White House lately. And I don't see any independent action being taken. That said, it's only been 100 days. So it's only been 3.5 months, give her until the middle of the summer where she's going to have been there for 6 months. And then we can do her report card at that point.
Well, I'll tell you, they better get their act together because they could lose the House and the Senate in the midterms if they don't. Gregory, zip code for O'Hare Airport is 60666. That's hilarious.
Is it really? Oh, that's
well, I don't think he's lying. That's funny.
No, it makes sense because that's an Illinois zip code. They usually start with 6. Wow, that's funny.
Sal said, a screaming person suffering from Tesla VD thought my old Toyota was a Tesla. These people will anything. Did you see there was a woman who keyed a Rivian thinking that it was a Tesla?
Oh, what a waste of effort. What a shame.
Never got her though, as far as I know. Yitzhak, Pam is an empty suit, always was. Trump picks celebs and not scholars.
You know what? I'll tell you something. Yitzhak has a point there. I won't go as far to say that Pam is an empty suit. I think that that's not fair because she has had a fairly solid history as a prosecutor in Florida. But I will agree that he likes optics. That's he really, really wants people that look the role. Pete Hegseth, again, Kristi Noem, Pam. He likes people who look like they can, I'm not a DA or I'm not a prosecutor,
right.
but I play one on TV. That doesn't mean that they're not qualified, but it is one of his priorities, and it is a little off-putting. I mean, listen, Janet Reno was no one's idea of a cover girl, nor was she effective in any way, shape, or form. But you know that Clinton didn't pick her because of her looks. He picked her because he thought she was competent. So I wish Trump would sort of tone down his apprenticed TV kind of leanings and just go for the person regardless of what they look like. You don't want Quasimodo out there, but looks are not that important.
Right. As exemplified by the Biden administration. Porch View says Bondi is a failure who was promoted. Star Driver says Bongino said they're still fighting a lot of Biden influence inside the FBI. I'll bet Bondi is fighting the same thing, which probably is. It's amazing how these people go into the swamp as a warrior and turn into swamp creatures. I don't think they're swamp creatures yet. I'm not going to go that far. I don't think they're swamp creatures. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to say I don't think
they're swamp creatures either, but I think they look weak and ineffective. And I think, obviously there have been a lot of leaks. There are a lot of people inside the administration that are working against the administration. I have my own opinions about some of the failures of this administration, but I also think that there is a lot of bad blood in there, and there are people that are working against the agenda. So again, I agree with you. I don't think they're swamp creatures, but in a way, I think it's worse. I don't think they're effective. I think the will is there, but the ability is not to fight back. And I mean, one person who's actually doing a good job, I think, is Marco Rubio. But Marco Rubio is institutional. He's been there for a very long time. He's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. He's a survivor. He knows what to do. I love Marco Rubio. I even agree with what he's doing with student visas. I mean, I do this work, but I agree with a lot of what he's been doing with respect to the State Department and visa issues. But he's really the only one that's impressed me so far in terms of any of the appointees, any of them.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a great question. Sal says, how does someone steal Kristi Noem's purse with all those Secret Service agents around?
Exactly. It's the same thing. We have my Congresswoman, Mary Gay Scanlon, came to the flower show, and it was during the pandemic, and it was outside. And she had her security detail. Her car was carjacked. I mean, she literally was carjacked near her car in front of the security detail. And it was just, nobody could figure out what it was. It was Philadelphia, obviously, and we have a DA that's incompetent. But yeah, I mean, how does Kristi Noem? I mean, Homeland Security. It's just like the joke writes itself,
It is. Exactly.
But at least they didn't steal her hair extensions. God forbid that would have.
You sound jealous of the hair extensions. That's all I'm going to say. And you've got long hair.
Not jelly at all. I just think she looks so unprofessional. I really, really do. And it irks me because that is a position that needs, you want an ugly woman? That's fine. I mean, you want a beautiful woman? That's fine. But someone that doesn't look like she spends 8 hours a day at Barbara's beauty salon. I want someone out there actually doing her job. I was at immigration today, and you've got the 4 photos of the DHS people. You've got Vance, his smiling little cherubic face. You've got the mugshot from our president.
I love that.
You've got some guy that I have no idea who it is. It's not Tom Homan. I don't know who this person is. And then you've got Kristi Noem in her glamour shot. And I'm like, and they're marching people into ICE to be processed for deportation. And I'm looking at that picture. I'm saying that should not be there. There should be, you need Janet Reno's ugly mug up on the wall.
No. I don't hate because she's beautiful.
I don't hate her, but I don't think she's beautiful either. That's all fake.
Stephen Smith is my spirit animal if Tom Homan isn't available. A star driver. I looked. Tom Homan's hilarious. He always sounds stuffed up and he always looks stuffy. Like his nose is stuffed up and his clothes are all over the place at all times. See, they're the polar opposites. Tom Homan on this end and Kristi Noem on this end. And there's got to be a happy medium.
I love Tom Homan. He's what I'm used to. That's the kind of guy, that's the ICE guy that I've been working with for 30 years. He looks like he knows what he's doing. And you're right. He does sound like, he's kind of like wimpy. Yeah, it's like, I love him when he's on CNN. Well, I was watching on CNN the other day with Caitlin Collins, and she kept trying to trip him up. And he's a really smart guy, and he wouldn't be tripped up. And he just kept saying, she said something about, are you going to deport, what about the citizens? And he goes, I don't deport citizens. And he just looked at her like, you're an idiot, lady. I don't deport citizens. Exactly. Do you know my job?
But to be fair, if we had a woman, you said like a Janet Reno, whatever, everyone would be all over her. Why can't she come here? Why can't she do something about that? Why can't she do this? Why can't she do that? Why, the least she could do is put some makeup on. That's what it would be about. Now that you've got like Kristi Noem and Caroline Levitt and these beautiful women, now it's the opposite. It's like, oh my gosh, they're such Barbies.
Okay.
They can't win for losing.
But be fair then. Caroline Levitt's different. She's not like created. Kristi is. Kristi to me is the right-wing version of Jasmine Crockett, because Jasmine Crockett is all put up with all those eyelashes and people make fun of her. And I've made fun of her, and I think it's absolutely fair game. So if you're going to make fun of Jasmine, make fun of Kristi, because it's the same principle. Just because it's our team that's being attacked,
Caroline Levitt's, this is Caroline Levitt's second nose. Okay. That's number one. I saw the original. I've seen the side by side. So there's that, which, listen, I'm looking at mine going, oh, maybe I should have I'm thinking maybe I could have my nose just like, I think about it. To me, there's no shame in the game. I think the difference is Jasmine Crockett has the huge eyelashes that look like they're the mud flaps off of a truck that somebody shredded and shoved on her face. There's a difference between clown makeup and someone who does it and it looks beautiful. Like, to me, Kristi Noem has beautiful makeup. I don't think it's over the top. I think she looks absolutely stunning.
We respectfully disagree, sweetheart. I love
okay. Let me say, does she have lip injections?
Oh my God. Did you see the old picture of her? Put the old picture of her next to the new picture of her. Hold on, I can't. Different face. She has Botox. She has uplifted. She has cheek injections. I mean, the extensions I make fun of. Everybody, listen, if I could get more hair, I would buy myself more hair. But no, Kristi has she's like the bionic woman. Google Kristi Noem old photo from when she was a representative in Congress.
Hold on. This is her now.
Right.
I don't think her lips don't look too done. Her upper lip, if it's been injected, it's not too much. At least it's not like the big duck lips. Her nose doesn't look like it's been done.
Google an old photo of her from when she was a representative in Congress.
All right, hold on. Kristi Noem.
I thought you were using me as her before because I popped up. I'm like, wait a minute. I know this is not where you wanted to go tonight.
I know. Hold on.
Aesthetics.
This is when she was a. Let me get rid of this. How do I get rid of that?
Get the one where she's got the short little bob.
Oh, wait. Well, you're being very, very demanding, and there's one of me here. I don't exactly have a production team.
Sorry.
I got this one. This is when before she was even in Congress. There.
Yep, that's it.
So she's like highlighted her hair. She's grown it out.
Look at
She
the
is looking.
mouth. Look at the
Yes,
teeth.
okay,
Look
so
at the.
she got injections on the bottom, but to me, it's not like those huge, gross pillow lips. At least they look somewhat natural, just plumper.
Okay,
I don't know. Okay, I
I
know.
love you.
Yeah.
I love you to bits. I think you're 10 times more gorgeous than she is, and it's natural
Oh God, no.
gorgeousness. And we'll just move on because I am not a fan of
All
this.
right, we'll have to agree to disagree. All right, let's move on though to a real stud. Can we? Shall we move on to a real stud?
Yes.
Let me. My cat's gonna wind up in this. Oliver, if you disconnect me, I'm not gonna be happy, buddy. Thank you. Okay.
I love that name, by the way, Oliver.
We didn't name him. He came with the name. Okay, let me know if you can hear this.
It's insane to all thinking people. You have, in this case, illegal aliens from Venezuela sent here by Maduro who are members of a foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua, an organization that the intelligence community has found is operating at the direction of a hostile adversarial foreign regime carrying out criminal enterprises to destabilize the political system in the United States. Those are the facts when it comes to TDA. So they're all illegal, they're all gang members, they're all foreign terrorists. And now we are being told that they cannot be expelled from our country without an extraordinary amount of individualized adjudication at the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, up and down, up and down, up and down. No American citizen receives this level of so-called due process. Because it isn't due process. This is called infinity process to keep you here forever. Yeah. That's what this is.
Oh no, it's crazy.
No American citizen charged with a crime, with a serious crime inside the United States, a U.S.-born American citizen receives this kind of process. Millions of dollars in free legal services, representation at every single level. I mean, do you think that there is any, for example, any American citizen who was persecuted, who was innocent related to January 6th? Do you think they could just get this kind of relief, this kind of process? No. It was never available to them.
Yeah.
The whole system was rigged against them, just like it's rigged in favor of illegal alien invaders.
So I know a lot of people think Stephen Miller's a stud. I think he's a little weird looking, but I know you're an immigration attorney. I love when he looks like though. I love when he lectures the press. So go ahead. You're the immigration attorney.
Well, first of all, there was a lot of misinformation in that clip. First of all, immigrants are not entitled to free legal services. They have to provide their own attorneys. They are not provided attorneys under the Sixth Amendment. They're simply because they're not criminal proceedings or civil proceedings. Are there social service agencies that do provide services, either pro bono or low bono? Absolutely. They're generally not funded by the U.S. government. They are all private entities and organizations or NGOs. Secondly, excuse me, excuse me. He is correct about the different levels of legal process that exist in the system. You start
okay there? You gonna make it?
I think I got a little piece of pollen in my throat.
All right, I'll mute your mic. You go hack up along. All right. There we go. Okay. So I think what she's going to say, but see, here's the thing. I think she's going to say like these people, oh, is she back? No, she's still going. She's still going. Oh, she's back. Okay. She's back.
I was going to say what you
Okay. You're back. All right, go. Okay. Go ahead.
So, and obviously, you know where I'm coming from on this, but let me just, and you're getting the God's truth from me. You're not getting it. This is not opinion. This is actual fact. So you don't get free legal services from the government. You're not entitled to them. Two, what Squidward did correctly delineate is the process that an immigrant illegal goes through in order to attempt to legalize his status. You get a hearing in front of an immigration judge. If that is a negative decision, you can appeal it to the Board of Immigration Appeals. That's your first appeal. If that's negative and you have the money, you can appeal it to the federal court. It's the circuit court, goes directly to one of the 11 circuits. Then if you, and in most cases, you never make it to that level. If you don't win in front of an immigration judge, you have a 20% chance of winning on appeal at any later level. Finally, there may be 1 out of every 100 cases that get appealed to the Supreme Court actually make it past certiorari. So those avenues are open to you. Does every immigrant have the wherewithal to be able to file those appeals? No, absolutely not. Then he said they get more due process than Americans. That's not true. Every American has the right to a first hearing in front of a regular judge. Obviously, they don't need an immigration judge because they're citizens. And then they can appeal it to the state court. And then they can get, a PCRA. Then they can go to do a habeas in federal court. Then they can appeal it to the circuit. Then they can go themselves to the Supreme Court. So no, they're not getting less rights or benefits. And I know that there are probably some people out there saying, well, damn straight, that's the way it should be because they're citizens. I agree. However, Miller's out there putting out falsehoods about citizens having less rights than illegal immigrants. So, and by the way, in most cases, indigent U.S. citizens have the right to appointed counsel. And immigrants do not have that. And I know the audience is probably saying, well, damn straight, they shouldn't. Okay, that's fine. But I just don't like Miller getting out there. And that interviewer didn't interrupt him once. That interviewer just kept saying, yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah. Amen. Amen. This is the problem. I understand why the American public is angry about what's happening with the borders. And much of it was due to Biden's falling down on the job. But it doesn't help to put falsehoods out there and to say that due process doesn't matter and that, well, immigrants should get less process than citizens. They already do. And as Antonin Scalia confirmed, under the Fifth Amendment, immigrants, legal or illegal, still have a right to due process. That's what our country is based on. And you want to change it, change the Constitution. That's the only way you can do it. So to me, and thank you for letting me have my little screed over here.
Yeah, this interviewer wouldn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, I'll be silent now. But that was my reaction to Stephen Miller.
I knew it would be visceral. But here's the thing. They are funding lawyers for illegals using taxpayer dollars through NGOs. And Trump tried to stop the funding to the NGOs that were providing legal services to citizens, people in the country illegally. That was the loophole to get funding for illegal immigrants to get legal representation, was these NGOs were funneling this money that they get from the federal government into legal services for them. So they were getting taxpayer funded legal representation. Okay.
That's right. But that's a separate issue. They don't have the right to it. He was
right. They don't have the right, but they're getting it. Whereas to his point, on January 6th, the January 6th defendants, a lot of them went for years without ever seeing a judge, number one. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them could not get legal representation because there weren't lawyers in Washington, D.C. that were willing to defend them. Lawyers tell doctors that they have to take all comers, whether they can pay or not, and whether they want to take their case or not. Because if you don't, it's terrible and horrible. People are going to die. But lawyers don't take all comers if they don't want to. So,
right. Absolutely.
So he was right about that. And that's how Americans view this. And he's absolutely right that, if you're an American and you don't have the money, or you get put in a jail in Washington, D.C. and your family lives in Idaho, then you know what, too bad, so sad. And if you can't afford a lawyer in D.C. and you can't find one that's going to represent you, oh, well, too bad.
But Mary,
so I think that's what he's talking about.
Listen, I have a visceral nausea when I see Stephen Miller because I dealt with him for 4 years under the first administration. Many of the most objectionable policies in immigration were masterminded by Stephen Miller. And although I blame Obama and Biden for a great deal of suffering and American citizens suffering because of illegal aliens and criminals and because of lax policies. A lot of the policies that were spearheaded by Stephen Miller are cruel. So, I mean, people will disagree,
So,
but what I wanted to say, go ahead.
Let me just ask you a question. So do you agree with him, though, that we're now in a situation that every single, how many, 10 million illegals, 12 million illegals in this country, probably 20 million, every single one of them gets to go in front of a judge and gets their day in court. And then if they don't like the ruling, they can then appeal. And if they don't like the ruling, they can appeal again. And they'll be here for years and years and years. And 300 years from now, we're still going to be expelling the descendants of the people that Biden led into this country illegally.
Not every single one of them. That's incorrect. There are a lot of people they'll have something called expedited removal. For example, and I won't go into any details, but I have a hearing tomorrow with someone who is in a situation where he is not entitled to appeal after appeal after appeal. The administrative process treats different people who are differently situated differently. So yes, there is a large group of people who come in and they apply for a benefit, asylum, a U visa, which is a victim of a crime, a T visa, which is a victim of trafficking, human trafficking, things like that. And they do have the right to go up that procedural ladder. There are a lot of people, though, who don't have that right. So my point is that the system exists to provide a hearing, at least an initial hearing, to almost everyone who is not barred because of expedited removal or some kind of technicality. My point is that today a report came out where the Trump administration is now firing immigration judges. We only have 700 immigration judges in the country, and people might say, oh, wow, that sounds like a lot. You have no idea. You have no idea with the backlogs that we have. So if you don't want everyone to have years and years and years of hearings because their case is going to be put on a docket 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years from now, get more immigration judges who can stop it at the first level and say, okay, well, I don't think this is a really good asylum claim, and I'm going to get rid of it. The administration just came down with a policy paper that basically will give immigration judges the right to what they call pretermit asylum applications, which will not even let the asylee go forward and have his hearing, because he'll say, well, it doesn't look from your paperwork that you qualify. I mean, okay, do that, but don't cut the judges, because now you're going to have less than 700. And it's kind of like he's saying, well, we don't have the judges now and it's going to take forever, so let's not give due process to everyone. Balance the scales.
If Biden can allow all these people into the country unvetted with no due process whatsoever, just walk on in, why can't Trump just say, walk on out, no due process? You didn't get it coming in, you ain't getting it going out.
What do you mean due process? Well,
they didn't have, they just walked in. Biden literally let people walk in the country.
That was an issue of a screwed up system at the border. I mean, if anything,
well,
you're talking about the due process due to American citizens who are stuck with illegal immigrants coming into the country.
Yeah, exactly. So
Biden fell down absolutely on the job. Biden was
but now the American people shouldn't have to suffer now.
Partly because of Biden, but not entirely because of Biden.
True, but Mary, there has to be another. Yeah, I'm here. You can't hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't know. Is the audience there? Am I lost?
Yeah, you can't hear me? Hold on.
I can't tell.
Hello, 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 hello. You're here. Hold on. Why am I not here? Hang on 1 second. Yeah, hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. It says my microphone is working.
I can do a song.
Hold on. Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Okay, Christine, stop.
And
let me call her. Hold it. Let me call her.
A pearly white. You know when that shark bites.
I'm going to call her.
Teeth, dear. And something about a knife. Keeps that out of sight.
Okay, I'm going to mute her because she's singing. There we go. Up. She fell to back. Okay. Okay. I don't know where she went. Clearly it was her, not me. So, and then she went into a lovely musical interlude. That was fun. Are you back? I was calling you, trying to get you to stop because everybody could hear you. You couldn't hear me, and I'm trying to talk, and you're singing Mac the Knife. So, I guess I'm gonna have to edit that out of the video. And I'm like, I'm holding my phone up, going, Christine, pick up your phone. I'm on the phone.
Completely black. I didn't see you went black on your side.
Well, that was you. That was you because you went off again. So that was you. So I will just edit this entire section out of the video because what would a Wednesday be if I didn't have to edit video? So so there you go. All right. Okay. Let's okay. I want to talk to you about this lawfare though. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to rehire all Voice of America, Radio Free Asia, and Middle East Broadcasting Network staff that were laid off. He said all congressional funding must resume to the outlets which have been effectively shuttered by the administration. So whether right or wrong, whether you think it should have happened or not happened, and then you've got someone else who's Marco Rubio is closing 132 agency offices inside the State Department with 604 to still remain open. They have more than enough agencies within the State Department. I think a lot of these agencies duplicate work, right? So know there's now going to be 132 separate lawsuits because of this. And this is what's happening.
It's ridiculous.
But this is what's happening now. I think everyone is kind of lawsuit fatigue. And now you're telling me 20 million illegals are going to have to each get their day in front of a judge as well. I think people have just had enough. I think there's just too much. And what happens here? Do these federal judges have this right to, because they're all in DC, they're all out of DC, every single one of them, because the Democrats judge shop. So they go to DC and this is where their offices were in DC, not all of them, obviously, but and they're all liberal. So they all rule against the president. Now it's got to be appealed, and now it's got to be appealed. And then everything goes to the Supreme Court.
But Mayor, okay. Yeah. Well, unfortunately they do. And I'll tell you why, unfortunately, because remember DACA? DACA was a program initiated by President Obama for the so-called Dreamers. And it was essentially stopped by one district judge in Texas. And while the judges in DC absolutely are very liberal, and that's that venue where a lot of these plaintiffs are going to go to, the administration also understands that you go to Texas, you go to Louisiana, go to Georgia, you're going to get conservative judges. And if one of those judges decides to put the kibosh on this whatever, program or give you a temporary restraining order or whatever, that is national. So now DACA is dead. The people who used to have DACA can renew it. And for your audience, DACA is basically a protected status where people who came into the country before turning 16 and have no criminal record are able to stay here, go to school, work, pay taxes, all that stuff. Those who had DACA before it was terminated under the first Trump administration will keep it. They can renew it. No one else can do it. So yeah, it bothers me that one federal judge can have an impact nationally, whether that be on something that I wish they hadn't done, or it also bothers me that they can do it and they can stop the White House from implementing whatever program it wants to implement. I don't think it's fair that one judge should have the right to do policy for every single district. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. They don't have the same. We have 3 branches of government, but now the judiciary is a separate branch, but they think they have, each judge feels that they're the equivalent of the president, and they're not. And we also have, I think that the FBI, the unelected bureaucrats, the FBI, the DOJ, that area, especially the deep state, feels that they have as much power, if not more, than the president. And to a certain extent, they do, because they've been so embedded in the swamp that they manage to have enough power. Suze says 100% Mary, enough with the lawsuits. Exactly. Gregory wants me to make a blooper reel at the end of the year. I'm just going to film Christine.
You didn't like my music? You're lucky I didn't.
It was hilarious. It was so funny. And I'm watching you're dancing and I'm like, hello. And I got the phone and I'm calling you and you're not answering the phone. I didn't save any of the bloopers, Gregory. That's a lot of work. I didn't save any of them. I'm sorry. Yitzhak has a good point here. He said, if Reagan fired over 22,000 air traffic controllers, Trump can fire his employees. Mark Levin is so correct. We are living with a judicial tyranny, which the founders warned against. Mm-hmm. Sal says the judges will give themselves the right. And well, here comes watching your back. Well, watching, let me tell you. You don't know what you missed. Christine put on some tap shoes. She was dancing. She was juggling. It was like the old Lawrence Welk show with the guy with the plates on the stick.
I was like Guy and Rana and Bobby and Cindy all together.
That's right. DACA is an EO, correct? Yitzhak wants to know. That was an EO. That was an executive order from Obama,
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the problem is, Obama and Biden were allowed to have EOs to create all sorts of government programs out of thin air that went against what Congress is doing. But if Trump, signs an EO, all of a sudden it's the end of the world and they're suing. Hermit says, I'm tempted to be a law unto myself. Sal wants to know, how do you shop for a judge outside of the case jurisdiction?
Easily. If it's a federal case, and for example, with DACA, you were able to sue in that jurisdiction because there was a you're not limited when it's immigration law is not limited to the specific area because it's federal law.
Right.
You're absolutely right. If it's a state case or if it's a I forget what the phrase is. Oh golly, it's too many years from law school. I am, but God, it has something to do with jurisdiction. You're sort of stuck with your regional court. But if it's federal law, you can file anywhere. Now, the Supreme Court has actually done something interesting because the ACLU tried to make a class action of all of the individuals who had been picked up and deported, or for example, the Venezuelans who are in danger of immediate deportation. And the ACLU tried to make a class of them, which I think is ridiculous because they were all differentiated. They had all different kinds of stories. They all came in differently and what have you. They lived in different parts of the country. And the Supreme Court came down and said, you can't do that. You can't make a lump of plaintiffs. You have to individually file your cases in the separate district court. So somebody in Philadelphia has to go into the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Somebody in Illinois has to go into the Southern District of Illinois. And I was cheering that because as much as anyone, Mary, I hate lawfare. I hate judges run amok. I hate constant litigation to obstruct national policy. But every now and then, if there is a violation of constitutional law, and that has to be determined on a case-by-case basis, you can't do these giant class actions. That's why the courts exist. And get back to Marbury versus Madison, where you had Jefferson against John Marshall, his cousin, and the courts they interpret the Constitution. That's it. So.
Yeah.
That takes Constitution.
I love when you're on. I learn so much. Porch View says this show is so much fun and watching says, dang it, because you just got here.
Oh, you missed my singing.
It was great, though. It was very good. Star Driver says, on the next podcast with Christine, it's dinner and a show. That's how I'm billing you next time you're on. Yitzhak says, Christine, I was raised International Workers Order, IWO. Dad was an ACLU attorney. Mom got arrested for tabling. I don't know what that means. Family of lawyers. We all felt we were a fourth branch of government and no class status, all diverse. Correct. It will be district by district. So,
right on.
What is tabling? What is tabling?
I'm not entirely certain. Maybe he can explain it. That's I think I know what it is, but I don't want to presume. So put it in the show comments.
All right. So very quickly, because we only have 5 minutes left, I sent her this 6-page article and said, this looks super interesting to me. Oh, set up a table and give out literature, he said.
It's much more benign than I thought it was. I thought it was like getting paid under the table or something. You know?
In Philadelphia, he probably so. Rebecca said, you ladies made me laugh this evening. Bless you both. Well, thank you for joining us. We're almost done, I swear. So very quickly, Colony Ridge is a development in Texas that a lot of people have heard of. I'm sure you've read about it here or there, and I'm going to be talking about it more tomorrow on WPHT from 3 to 7. I'll be in for Rich Zeoli, so you can join me there. It's an Odyssey station, WPHT Philadelphia, and we're going to try to get on the guy who wrote this article. But Colony Ridge has turned out to be a community full of illegals where they can come and own part of the American dream. I have a question for you. Oh, Suze will be there tomorrow at 3. Yay! Mango Mush was here. I didn't even realize Mango was here. Mango, I'll see you tomorrow on Zeoli's show with Suze. So here's my question. How can you be in the country illegally and purchase land? Don't you need, I don't know, a legitimate ID, maybe a bank account? Like, how does that happen?
Well, again, it depends on how are you here illegally. If you're illegally here with absolutely nothing. No, I mean, because there are people who are here illegally who are in process. Some people who filed for asylum. If you file for asylum, you can get a work permit. With the work permit, you get a social security number and a driver's license. So you could do that. It's very unwise to buy property unless you are a green card holder or a citizen, because if you get deported, you're not taking that property with you and you have no claim to it any longer. But I know I read that article, Mary. I was outraged primarily because they were targeting immigrants for, you know, they're an easy sell, you know, oh, I want to buy property. And they knew that if the immigrant got deported, and they could just flip the property and resell it to somebody else. But also, and you're going to tell us about Greg Abbott, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's the really crazy part.
So the more than 100 illegals, including murder suspects, drug lords, sexual predators, confirmed cartel members, were nabbed in this housing development. And it's infamous in Texas. Everybody knows about Colony Ridge. Apparently, it's a mess. It's ridden with crime, full of illegals, etc.
They found a Salvadoran gang member dealing drugs there, didn't they? I mean, like,
oh yeah, they have tons of drug lords, the whole bit going on. And this is what happens when you sell to people who broke the law to come into the country illegally. This is what happens. They conduct illegal activities. Shocking. A Daily Wire investigation found in 2018, Colony Ridge's growth was supercharged because it was made an opportunity zone.
Right.
Now, it was awarded by the federal government after Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, wrote 3 letters to the federal government asking them to make this an opportunity zone. And what it does is an opportunity zone, we have one not that far from here, an opportunity zone, you, instead of paying the sales tax is 6%, you only pay 3%. Right. That's you pay less than a sales tax. The businesses pay less. There's the property taxes are less because they want people to move into these opportunity zones. And in a shock to no one, the opportunity zone that I know of, and what happens is legitimate businesses like in town, a couple of towns over, will have their showroom and everything else a couple of towns over. They have a storefront with just a desk in the opportunity zone. And if you want to buy something like appliances, whatever, you go to the big showroom, you look at everything, you pick out what you want. Then you go over there and you sign the contract and you only pay 3% taxes.
Wow.
But so
sounds like a scam.
Well, because that place is also full up to the eyeballs with Brazilian illegals, because everything's in Portuguese, and they all finish floors. Every single one of them refinishes floors. All of them. It's all they do. That's all I see on the trucks everywhere. Floor. I'm like, floor refinishers, and they can't drive for shit.
Yeah. You're right. There's a huge Brazilian population in that part of Jersey. I know about that.
I know. I know. And again, can't drive for shit. It's true. The horrible drivers. Then they don't care. They just chug down the road, 25 and a 40. And I'm like, oh, for the love of holy God, and then left-hand turns in the right-hand lane. They don't care. They're back in Brazil. They drive however they want.
Hopefully they'll get arrested by the police, and then ICE will be, because you think that I'm a bleeding heart. I'm absolutely not.
I do.
My mother was almost killed by a guy. My mother was almost killed by a DUI. You have a DUI. I don't care. I don't care if it's your first. I don't care if it's just a little bit over the limit and you're illegally here. That should be grounds for immediate deportation. I have no tolerance whatsoever for that kind of crime, for any kind of crime, but even that minimal sort of crime. Because as you said, you're illegally here to begin with, and then you're going to pile something on top of that. So, but we could talk about that.
Anyway, yeah. So Yitzhak says nowadays buying property, one needs to file affidavits with county clerks and you need a social security number. Well, Biden gave them all social security numbers. So there's that. Star driver.
Work authorization.
The problem of this community is it has no sewers. It's like Mexico. Yeah, they do have a sewer problem there. All right. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I just heard the sewer thing and I went, ew.
Oh, I thought you said it, and I thought you were going somewhere. So
no. I want to hear the rest of the story.
Okay, so Abbott petitioned the federal government to secure the tax incentive for Colony Ridge, as the development's backers, the guys who were doing this whole development, made donations to Governor Abbott's campaign. So listen to the timing. March 19th of 2018, the wife of the lead developer donated $100,000 to Greg Abbott. That donation came just 2 days before the original deadline for states to nominate census tracts for opportunity zone status, just 2 days before. Then 2 days later, the day of the deadline, Abbott wrote a letter to the Treasury Department nominating Colony Ridge to be designated an opportunity zone 2 days after the donation. 2 weeks later, the lead developer and a local lawmaker named Brandon Creighton were guests of Abbott's for lunch at the governor's mansion. 2 days after the lunch meeting, Abbott wrote a second letter to the Treasury Department for the Opportunity Zone. 4 days later, he sent a third letter. And then a couple of months later, the IRS had designated Colony Ridge and the surrounding land an opportunity zone. Over the next 4 years, that lead developer would become one of Abbott's biggest individual donors. It eventually became his 15th largest donor at the time. And this developer and his wife visited the governor's mansion on several occasions for a summer kickoff fiesta, a Christmas reception, an intimate 6-person dinner. Now, Abbott's office disputes all of this. And they say there's no evidence to suggest that Abbott was aware of the Colony Ridge business model, which openly targets immigrant populations with the opportunity to own land in the United States. Yeah, they did seize up to nearly 350 pounds of meth in Colony Ridge. So, yeah. So anyway, it goes on with that politician Creighton. Is a lawyer, and he's on the board of Colony Ridge, and his law firm has donated heavily to Greg Abbott, and they're all in bed together. And it's a very complicated, in-depth story, but you should read about it. It's the Daily Wire, and it's Colony Ridge gave Greg Abbott $1.5 million. I'll put the link in on YouTube and on Apple in the audio and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker. I'll put it all there. But it's so interesting to find out, because here's Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, who is so, securing the border and all this other stuff. And then he's got his hands, it looks like, very deeply involved in this.
Yeah. And it started, way back in 2018, 7 years ago. Fascinating story. I tell all of your viewers and listeners, they really should read it. It is very long, but it's extremely well done.
Yep.
And and surprisingly, yeah, Greg Abbott is sort of trying to distance himself from it. But I love the quote from, I forget the name of the guy, but one of his donors who said, because now that he's sort of being thrown under the bus, he said, yeah, well, Abbott has to do what he has to do. He's a politician, but he ain't getting money from me next time around. He's not going to get another $1 million from me next time around. I'm like, wow.
It was either the Signorelli Corporation, which I guess is part of this, or is that the Signorelli law firm? Anyway, yeah, it was either that head donor Harris that I was talking about, or Signorelli
or Travis or somebody.
But I'm sorry.
Was there a guy named Trent or Travis? I don't know why.
There's Creighton, and there's Harris.
Maybe it's Harris.
And then the developer's cousin. I'll end with this because this is good. Okay, so I'll end with this. All right, ready? The developer's cousin is Monty Harris Lane. Monty, who needs a kid? Monty Harris Lane is the developer's cousin. And he told the Daily Wire that he believes the federal allegations based on what he knows about the operation. He claimed his brother is the main foreclosure agent for Colony Ridge. And Monty says that his brother bragged about Colony Ridge's practice of reselling foreclosed lots for a profit after defaulted borrowers made improvements to the property. They just flip it. And if they've added any type of improvements like water, septic, things of that nature, the property is worth more. They just sell it.
That's what I'm talking about. Why do you think they're defaulting?
Yep.
They're not there anymore. They've been deported. So they can't make the payments. I mean, it's really, really bad. And this is bad for Greg Abbott. I hope that he has, a good attorney. And this is really bad PR for him as well, because he is known as, Greg Abbott, hanging judge, the border governor. This is a really bad look. So we'll see what happens.
And Suze, what's with the crack at Jersey drivers? I got news for you. We don't sit in the left-hand lane like Pennsylvania Philly drivers who just sit there going, I'm going 56, go around me. So that's why I sit in the right-hand lane. Once I get out of Jersey, when I was driving down to DC, I just sat in the right-hand lane. As soon as I hit Delaware, boom, because the left-hand lane's full of the Philly people going 56 miles an hour and a 55, thinking they're speeding. And I just sit in the right-hand lane and go, whoa, 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 past everybody. And then the middle lane is the people who are scared. The middle lane is the people who are scared, who are doing 55 or 65 and a 65, and they're scared, or they're doing 60. So they're like this in the middle lane, because if they have a heart attack or a stroke or whatever they're afraid of, they got some room to go off. I guess that's why they drive in the middle. I'd hit Maryland, same thing. Boom, right-hand lane. Fastest way on 95, stay in the right-hand lane. It's the fastest lane.
Because crazy people in the passing lane who go really slow. My Aunt Reba.
That's what I'm talking about.
My Aunt Reba was arrested by the police, and she couldn't understand why. She said, I'm not speeding. And they said, no, you're going like 25 miles below the speed limit, and you are a danger. She couldn't understand why. It's like, well, that's what happened.
I love that. I'm sorry she got arrested, but
she got stopped and she got a ticket. It was in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. So yeah, she was very upset. She said, I was obeying the speed limit. I said, Aunt Reba, you were way below the speed limit. So you must have hit it at some
Maybe
point.
It's time for Aunt Reba to stop driving. Abbott also backed open border Tony Gonzalez. He's not as closed border as he puts out. Suze, sorry, but it had to be said. Oh yeah. Okay, fine, Suze.
Well, you guys grew up going on the circles. Remember the New Jersey circles? Those were, if you survived the circles, then you are great drivers.
Okay, so the circle near us was the Somerville Circle, but it used to be called Suicide Circle, because people died, like numerous numbers of people died on the Somerville Circle every year, because going north and south was 202, 206, and going east-west was Route 28, right? And then there were little streets coming into it. North-south had the right of way. That was it. There were no signs. There's none of this yield crap or stop signs or anything else, and like these pussy circles now that they have, right? Where they got yield signs and this and that. When I had driver's ed in high school, Coach Greiner, to pass driver's ed, you had to go around the Somerville Circle, and I was not allowed to drive the Somerville Circle. My parents were like, no, you're not allowed to drive. And I knew every way around it. And Coach Greiner sitting next to me, and he goes, and we had to stop before we went into the Somerville Circle. On the side of the road, he goes, looks at me, he goes, whatever you do, don't stop. And I said, okay. He goes, whatever you do, don't stop. I'm like, Okay. But we went in on 202, 206. So we had the right, just local rules. You had the right of way. And if you were coming in the other ways, you knew you had to stop.
Yeah.
So I went around, and then I got really good at it. We would go round and round, like idiots, and so I'm good at a circle. I'm really good. But now they got the yield signs and everything else, and it took all the fun out of it. They should put them back. They're much more efficient than all this other crap they put in when they jug handles and the roundabout thing and the this and the that. Circles are very efficient, and it weeds out the weak and the people who should not be driving.
That's what I was going to say. There are too many people out there. I know my strengths. I have a driver's license. You don't want me out there on the road. So I don't drive. I take SEPTA. I take our public transportation. I know every bus route. I know I am a crappy driver. And so I'm not going to be selfish just because I have a car and a driver's license and put myself on the road and put the rest of you in danger. There are far too many people out there who should not be driving. Young, old, middle-aged, you name it. There are people that should not be inside of cars unless it's on the passenger side.
No, 100%. All right, we're wrapping it up here. Sal says, aren't the installations of sewers racist? Hell, everything else seems to be nowadays. Sue says, see you next week. Hermit, she's out. Bye, Suze. Yitzhak says, Colony Ridge approval hearings. Anyone got videos? Anyone do a timing of the donations and the hearings, proposals? Well, that's what this article is about, is the timing of the donations. Exactly. It's exactly what this article is. I'll put the link in on YouTube and on the other socials media. Mangelmush, bye, Suze. We start at 6 a.m.ish. That's for PHT's morning show. Star Driver, the front of the Colony looks nice, but as you go in, it turns to hell. Ish for sure, Mangelmush. Bruno and Rocco, donors, they pour the foundations. Ha ha.
They found Jimmy Hoffa in there too.
Flipping foreclosures, that's Pocahontas's routine. I didn't know she was involved in that. Right lane is Florida, 100 on the turnpike. Exactly, 95, right lane. All the Altacacas are in the middle because they're afraid. So they're doing like 45. You just got to zoom around them. And then the left lane is the Maryland people. Virginia's also pretty bad, but Pennsylvania, sorry, you guys sit in the left-hand lane. I'm doing 70 and a 65. Go around me.
I agree. Oh. We have some really, really crappy drivers in this part of the state. Actually, in the entire Commonwealth.
Yeah. Mangelmush, whoa, Mary, why do I pass so many New Jersey drivers in the right lane on Route 80 in the Poconos? They're probably older. If you're passing them on the right, that means they're sitting in the middle. They're older drivers. The older drivers are afraid. And I get it. I'm going to hit an age where I'm going to be afraid too. But then I think you should drive to the right, not the middle. But they want to be in the middle because I think they feel safer. And you don't have to worry about the merging traffic. So it's a safer, safer
so many of them wear hats too. It's kind of like you see a hat, you see
there's a hat driving.
Yep. There's a hat driving and it's
just a hat driving. Sal, where I live, they replaced the actual streets with speed bumps. Yes.
They replaced the streets. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Jerry. Okay, so Shore Essentials and I went to high school together. We went to grade school together too. Coach Griner, Somerville Circle, good memories, good times. Did he teach you too? He was by the time I had driver's ed, I had to have my license for like a year, but you had to get driver's ed to get cheaper insurance, So, and they made all the gym teachers or any other teacher that would volunteer. I had the football coach. Whatever you do, don't stop. To this day, I still remember.
Coach Griner.
Sal's out. Scott's out. Star says, Christine, I drive semis all over the country. You're preaching to the choir. Great shows. Ladies, Yitzhak, great show. 90 is slow. Ain't no middle there on 80, I guess. Okay. Yitzhak, the Graysters, we call them kepi. A kepala in Yiddish is a head. So always hear the tops of the heads. You can also call them Q-tips. Jerry had Coach Griner too. Hats and knuckles driving. All right. See you next week. Okay. We're going to get out of here, everybody. Christine, thank you so much. You are the best. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you, everyone. Let me get rid of that there. Hold on. I got to get rid of I got to get rid of that. Okay. There we go. Everybody Christine, if people are in Philly, where can they see you? You're on TV locally.
I'm on TV locally on Channel 6, Inside Story, Sunday mornings, 11:30. I'm not on every week. I'm usually on once or twice a month. And I was just on WHYY, a radio, a left-leaning NPR station, and they had a YouTube of me talking about, being a conservative. Mostly it's just really writing though. I just do in the Delco Times every Sunday. And I'm with you. This is my favorite place to be on TV.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you. So catch Christine as much as you can. And sometimes, who knows, maybe you'll wind up as a guest with me on PHT when I'm in for Rich Zioli the next 2 days. I don't know. We'll see. I always put you up.
I am so glad you are going to be there. Mike Opelka was there for the last 2 daes. I love Mike.
I know.
And actually, we talked about you, how much we both love you so much, very much. So anyway.
Were you on with him today?
Yesterday. I was on yesterday.
Oh, he's great. I would say the three of us need together, but it's Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, and you don't. Yes! That's a tough one. That'll be a tough one. So, all right, honey. Yeah, there you go. All right, love you. Take care, honey. Bye-bye. Love you. Take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. I will be on Newsmax on Monday, on the Chris Salcedo show, sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock Eastern time, and of course, have a great week and God bless. Appreciate y'all. Really do.